I leave all these things in as well, because it's like, as I say to people, it's not really like Hollywood. We're just like having a chat. So not so much an interview, more or less a case of let's just chew the fat and find out about something what you do. It's not about me, by the way. So I wonder what's your recording and performance background?
Good heavens, very little actually. I started playing guitar when I was about 12. When I was 14, I started writing songs.
All right.
When I was 15, 16, there was a little kid-run coffeehouse in my community. I grew up in Annapolis, Maryland, which is the home of the Naval Academy, if anybody cares. And it's just outside Washington, D.C. That kind of locates it for people, mid-Atlantic. And then I went off to college and continued playing my guitar and singing songs. And then life happened.
Of course.
As it does, so I ended up singing in the shower for a long time.
It sounds great. Yeah, a bit wet, but great.
When I was pushing 30, I met the man that I ended up spending much of my lifetime with, and we were living on a boat on the Chesapeake Bay, sailing around the bay, and we had just come back from literally circumnavigating the Chesapeake Bay. And I don't know why, I sat down and a song fell out. And it was about sailing around the bay. And I thought, well, that's different. I'm not looking at my navel anymore. I'm singing a song about something that I've done. And I played it for some people, and they were so excited because it was a song about sailing a boat on the Chesapeake Bay, and there weren't any songs like that. So I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll write another one.
Yeah, but like you say, then life happened, and that's what can give you more of an impetus to write in the first place.
Well, certainly. I've always been a writer, so that was always my day job.
So
teaching.
Writing in what respect?
I wrote for recreational boating magazines.
All right. I can see there's a theme coming here.
And then ultimately, my last, I retired from being the editor of Chesapeake Bay magazine, which was a magazine for recreational boaters.
I don't mean to interrupt, but a song about Chesapeake Bay and somebody who's writing for the Chesapeake Boat magazine. You didn't happen to promote it in the magazine at all, did you?
What, my music?
Yeah.
Not really. I tried very hard to be circumspect about that. But I did...
a true artist.
When we were... whenever we had a performance, we would put that in the calendar of the magazine because I ended up forming a little folk band called Crab Alley. And the three of us would go around mostly to maritime museums or yacht clubs and perform for them. I lived on the eastern shore of Maryland, which is very rural and isolated. So I didn't know there were folk clubs.
All right.
They hadn't really been invented in that neck of the woods. In Annapolis, the folk scene had kind of died by the time all of that was happening. So I wasn't, tuned into anything that was going on.
I mean, there's such a wide breadth of like Americana folk music, which has like Celtic roots and Appalachian roots and things like that. What kind of was the major influence for you then? Well,
for me, it would have been, again, growing up in Annapolis, you have to remember the Chesapeake Bay divides Maryland in half. So there's Annapolis, Baltimore, Washington, they're all on the western shore, and they're very educated and posh and all that. The eastern shore, which is where I ended up, is, like I said, very rural, and I hate to use the word backwater, but when I moved there, it was very more of a backwater area. My influences would have come from Kingston Trio, Peter, Paul, and Mary, that kind of thing. But also my mother's family were all opera singers, so there was a lot of opera. My father loved musicals, so there were a lot of musicals, a lot of classical music. So music was part of our our household, but not singing so much. We didn't sing together as a family.
Right, but you were surrounded by music all of the time.
Surrounded by music all the time, and we sang along with.
Right.
There was nothing to stop us.
Did you take part in amateur productions at all? Or?
No, my brother was the one who did that, and I was involved in other things. I did take part in, there was a group called Sing Out Annapolis, which was we would high school kids, which are ages like 15 to 17. And I was very active in that. And that was great because it gave me the opportunity to be on stage in a big auditorium. I ended up singing solos or having the lead part. So I was, out in front. And it was also the first time that I had a chance to sing one of my songs in front of a great big huge audience. So
that's a great feeling.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I think sometimes along the way, in certain areas of the folk world, you forget the social side of it as well. Because I mean, you're 17-year-old and you're with your friends and you're not exactly showing off, but you're showing what you can do.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And at the kids' coffee house, we were playing for each other.
Mm-hmm.
So the songs that I was writing then were your typical singer-songwriter. Mm-hmm. I've got more lint in my navel than you do, that kind of thing. But your friends love it.
Yes.
You've got a real good support group there.
Well,
they think that you're a great songwriter.
And is this the same kind of coffee house where you all sit around and you pass the basket around and it's almost like that money gets recycled. Everybody puts like $1 in and somebody else take like $1 out and then put that $1 in for somebody else.
We would, it cost 50 cents to get into the coffee house. There was an admission charge, and if you performed, and we had 4 performers a night, 20 minutes each, you got $1.
Oh,
you got paid.
I know.
So, and you had a sound system.
Yeah.
It was very, very exciting.
Could I just ask, as a performer, did you have to pay to get in as well?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I think not. I think if you were playing, then
so really only 75 cents. Yeah.
So that was a wonderful experience because it got you used to a microphone, and a little bit more. The knees stopped shaking after a while, and you got a little bit more confident in singing. And then, like I said, with Sing Out Annapolis, you're not alone. You've got 30 kids on stage behind you, so it's not quite the same feeling. You're just, you figure if you forget the words, somebody back there knows them.
And whisper them to you.
So,
and never let you forget that you forgot those words.
That's true. That's true. But I went for about, I'd say, I guess maybe 5 or 6 years where I really wasn't playing the guitar out as much because I'd moved to the Eastern Shore and we were living on a boat. And I kept my guitar. I was a teacher then. I kept my guitar in my classroom. So I played it to the kids. At lunchtime we always played, and I got them songwriting and things like that. So that was good. But I wasn't playing out in front of anybody at that point. And like I said, when we did that circumnavigation of the bay, and I wrote the song it's called Islands. It's just about the different islands on the Chesapeake that you can go to. And suddenly I realized I've always loved sea shanties, but I realized sea shanties aren't about contemporary sailing. And I grew up sailing. My family we were boaters. And I realized there aren't songs about that experience on the water. So that was where Crab Alley, the focus of Crab Alley, was singing songs for other sailors, which is why we never thought about folk clubs. It just wasn't part of what we were doing, and we had the audience. We didn't need them. We had the audience and the boaters that were tied up at all the docks and at the maritime museums. They were excited to have a theme like that.
Of course.
So that was really where I really got going with what I would call my true songwriting, where I really developed as a songwriter, and I learned that people want to hear stories, they want to laugh, they want to sing along, they want to see themselves sometimes in the work.
Within the lyrics,
they don't want to see your navel, they want to see theirs.
It's just all part of the sea, it's like navel and...
There you go, how clever. So that was and the other thing that I got very caught up in back then was the fact that sea shanties are so male-oriented. The stories are male-oriented, and if they're not, then the women are always getting dished. They're not treated very
Just
nicely.
say it. The chauvinistic.
And I got kind of not angry about that, but I just thought, well, I know, I'll write songs that address that.
Yes.
And it was as part of Crab Alley that I wrote the song called Twiddles. And Twiddles is the one that has gone around the world.
Oh, right.
It's you hear girl groups singing it. You hear it at a lot of Renaissance festivals. It came to England. I didn't bring it to England, but it came to England. It's been recorded here.
But surely that's like the highest accolade when one of your songs has travelled on its own.
Not only that, but we Googled it the other day, and there it was in Spanish.
Right.
Spanish, Italian, maybe it was Italian, and anyway, it's a different language.
Yeah.
But the chorus is the same. It's,
all right, yeah.
You know, it's
I don't think there is anything Spanish for twiddles.
No. So the chorus was the same. But that was really interesting. Of course, if I had a penny for every time that song has been sung, we'd be doing this somewhere else. Someplace very exotic.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's like, I know the man who wrote Pizza Hut, and he didn't copyright it, so...
Oh, gosh.
I know, it's fine. Does this explain, like, one of your songs that I've seen that other people do is the one about Anne Bonny?
Oh, right, yeah. Well, Anne Bonny, yes, absolutely. And the story about Anne Bonny, one of the things I kind of like about that song is I went at it sideways. I had heard somebody sing a song she'd written about Anne Bonny, and it was dreadful. It was dreadful. Oh my God. It went on and on and on, you know.
It's a great impetus to make you write something better, isn't it, really? I'm saying nothing.
But it's one of those cases where you sort of go, if you can't do it in 4 or 5 verses, write a book. You know, it's we're in an era when...
I'm pleased you said 4 or 5 verses, because there's a lot of people go around saying it has to be 3 verses.
Yeah.
And you think, well, Tamlin and, you know, Patrick Spence and all of these, Cheviot, you know, Chevy Chase and all these, they're fantastic songs because it's a huge story that needs to be told.
And it keeps people's attention.
Yes.
You know, but you do have to, as an editor, I learned, you know, there's nothing that 4,000 words can do that 3,000 words can't do better, you know, usually. And it's...
Unless they were writing a review of your performance and you want the 4,000 or 5,000, I'm ready. Give it to me now, yeah.
Give it all.
Yeah, you're finished.
But I think that's... Anyway, so I heard this dreadful song about Anne Bonny, and I thought, oh my God, what a shame, because she's such a character and just so flamboyant, and we really don't know what happened to her. You know, she vanishes after she was captured. So I thought, well, I'm gonna pretend that I know what she did, and so that's where the Anne Bonny song came from. The idea of just making it up.
And again, it must be thrilling to see other people singing your song.
Sometimes it is, and then sometimes it's also you just want to go, oh God, don't say that you
know me. Well, it was on your website, so I think the version that I saw you liked.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say to you that something what drives you on, but I mean, you seem to have like an inner drive that sort of pushes you forward and sort of seeks an area that you can explore.
Well, I have, and that's twofold. I have the Chesapeake Bay, that's where I grew up, that's in my blood. And I want to save those stories. The watermen are such amazing characters, the fishermen of the Chesapeake Bay. The ghosts, the heroes, the amazing things that have happened on the bay. And we're losing those because Michener wrote the book of Chesapeake, and when he wrote that book, suddenly everybody wanted to move to the Chesapeake because it's so beautiful, blah, 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 and the land was so cheap. So now everybody who lives around the Chesapeake Bay comes from Kansas, and they don't know anything about the stories, they don't know the history, they don't know what makes this place special or how this place got its name, or... You know, they just don't know the folklore. In many cases, it's folklore.
A lot of the times, I mean, in Europe and in the UK, there was this seeking of like folkloric things, like the Brothers Graham and Cecil Sharp and all of those kind of things. Was there anybody in America who was doing it at that time in the Chesapeake Bay area?
Alan Lomax collected and recorded some songs from the Lower Bay, his Menhaden fishing songs, his Menhaden hauling, the net songs. the Johnson Girls, that's a popular one. People hear that a lot of times. And those are rhythmic, where the men were working on the side of a boat and having to haul up a net, so they had to coordinate their rhythm. But on the other fishermen, though, it was more solitary. You'd be out tonging for oysters by yourself, maybe with your wife culling, or on a skipjack where the labor isn't, you don't have to coordinate it. One guy can haul up the sail, kind of thing. And when they're hauling up the dredge, they're culling through the oysters, but it can't be, that's an individual, it's not rhythmic. So couple that with the fact that the Delmarva Peninsula, which is the eastern shore of Maryland, Virginia.
A map will be included at the end.
Yes, there'll be a test. The Delmarva Peninsula is a hotbed of Methodism. I've been told by scholars that, in fact, the eastern shore of Maryland and Virginia, there are more Methodists per capita than any place else in the world. And I think that's probably true. At all the churches you see, are Methodist churches. But the Methodists are the ones who don't sing. They sing only hymns. They don't sing secular music.
Right.
And sure enough, the skipjack captains, they'll sing. It'll be hymns.
Right.
And they'll sing on their way home at night, or they'll sing in the packing houses and they'll be singing hymns. So
Fascinating. When you think that it seems like every workforce, in the 19th century seemed to want to sing a song, the knife grinder, the carpet maker, or those kind of things, and yet they had this huge history which they wouldn't sing except for hymns.
Exactly.
Let's move up into the here and now. I mean,
sure.
When did you move here to Blighty, as I like to call it?
Well, I left the Eastern Shore, around 2003, 2004. And then met Rob in 2013. And he and his then partner, Alan Reed, were traveling through and playing music. And they kept landing at my house. They kept showing up. And by and by, Rob and I developed a friendship and then a relationship. And so in 2017, we moved here to Whitby together. And I guess we've been playing music together for a couple of years before then, but not very often because we weren't all, it was hard to build up some momentum. But he's such an amazing guitarist that he could just be my sideman.
Don't tell him.
No, I try not to. Try not to let him know that. But it was great because he could. I don't play guitar very well, and now I don't have to play guitar at all. That's great. I have people for that.
Yeah, I love it. Yes. Have you met the paid hand? So what is it that you're aiming to do right now? I mean, I know that you've made an album on your own here.
I've got that album. Yeah, that's
When I Sing.
When I Sing, and that is because people wanted them. That's kind of, I put all my women's songs, not all of them, but the ones that people seem to gravitate to, into the one package. So that there you go. If you want to learn a song about women on the water, there's a song for you in there. Not, I don't think any of these are Chesapeake Bay though. Well, Nasty Nell is set on the Chesapeake Bay, but she doesn't have to be. Otherwise, they're very generic, but they're songs from the woman's point of view. The Siren song is the song that where the title comes from, and that's the siren. Said the siren to the sailor, "What makes you think I want your sorry ass washed up here on my beach?"
Are they the very words that you wrote?
Those are the very words that I wrote. I just come to this beach to sing. And it's things like that. It's like called Mythbuster songs. When you take so much of the maritime lore about, say, mermaids or sirens, these sirens that are beautiful singers and singing on the beach, and obviously they're luring men ashore for sexual encounters. And I'm thinking, I don't think so. I used to just go to the beach to sing. I just like to sing, and I wanted to sing on the beach because it's beautiful. And so in my siren song, she explains that basically. And when I sing the blue ocean, I sing the white caps, I sing the waves, I sing the wind, I sing the stories, I sing the breaking of the day. So it's one of these songs that goes from this really strident, angry verse to this, what I like to think of as this beautiful chorus that shows the strength of the music and how this, you know, if we didn't have the sirens singing, we wouldn't have the sun coming up in the morning. You know, these are important women, and not in the way that men think that they're.
No. Oh, well, I've got to say that, I mean, as a storyteller, there are lots of stories about mermaids and sirens, and they're not the alluring type. You know, they make you do terrible tasks like wind a rope out of sand, and if you don't, you're going to die.
Yes,
you know, that's not the, that's not the kind of like, look at me, aren't I beautiful? So I love that aspect of it. I mean, I write songs, but from a women's point of view, quite a lot of the time.
Do you?
I do, yeah. Well,
we'll have to.
We'll have a yes. Yeah,
yeah,
we'll
there you
have
go.
a conflab.
So the other one on here, Mad Jenny. That's the song about the woman who is when Mad Jenny's on a tear. You know, she goes out and curses the ships, and but nobody can really prove it that she does that.
Well, that's it. You know.
And then Nasty Nell is my. That's another one that you hear a lot of people singing. That's a mermaid who gets accidentally snagged by a fisherman on the Chesapeake Bay. And he's just, oh, look what I've caught, a mermaid. Ha, 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 I'm going to just haul you up on deck and we're going to have fun. And she has different ideas.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Don't tell anybody too much, because otherwise they won't find out what it is. Well, it just sounds fantastic. It's really sort of like a different take on the whole thing. What are your plans at the moment? Because you're both very busy. Both you and Rob Van Sandy, you're very busy, travelling around, playing places. I know you did tell me before we started that you thought you would spend like a year travelling around just to see folk clubs, get your face known, get your name known, your songs known. Well, what's your main goal or project at this moment in time?
Well, right now we're still doing that. We've got we're coming up this coming weekend. Oh my gosh, yes, this coming weekend.
Yeah, up and open.
We'll be up and open, and then we come back and we go to Ripon Folk Club. Then we go back to Scotland to the Quarter Acoustic Music Club. And then we're down here for Folk Week. I don't think we're doing anything for Folk Week this year. They haven't told us that we are anyway, except hosting people. Feeding people, that's our job this year. And the minute Folk Week is over, then boom, we're off to the States. And we'll be touring in the States.
I saw that you're touring in the States.
Yeah, September, October.
How fantastic. Do you know what? I'm so pleased just to have this chance to talk with you. It's been absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
No, real pleasure. Thank you. That was great. I love that.
Oh, well, good. Good. All right. Yeah, well, you get me going and then I don't shut up.
No, not at all. It's just... one of the things is like to make it into a...
That's when we start taking our clothes off.
No, what? I think that's a very specialist site. As often happens, we'll have like quite a long chat after we've turned the phones or the cameras off. And we started talking about, and one of the first things that I wanted to say to Janie was, when I told people that I was going to be talking with you, the amount of praise that you got for the work that you did during the thing was they said, like, you know, it was just fantastic and how much they really enjoyed that. Could you talk about how the Zoom concerts came around and where they were? I know they were based in people's houses, but where the original idea for that came about? Well,
we deliberately did not do Zoom concerts, and that was because when we had done it, we did a couple of Zooms. We dabbled in it a little bit, and we were struck by how, especially the guitars, sounded so tinny.
Yeah.
You know, just really, it didn't. We thought, no, Zoom is not. It's not built for sound yet. It's really for conferences and talking or a cappella. If I did a Zoom, I would always just do it a cappella because it just seemed like that was a better way. So we decided during COVID, so many of the musicians we knew were just strapped financially. You know, this is their lifeblood and they've lost it. We thought, well, you know, we could set up a YouTube concert, and because I have connections in the U.S. with different folk clubs in the U.S., I thought, well, why don't let's think of somebody here that the folks in the U.S. haven't seen for a long time or would like to see again, and let's invite them to come and do a YouTube concert here with us. We'll broadcast it to the States. The clubs will sell it, you know, tickets basically to it, and then the artist will make the money. And what it took some doing, it took some getting used to, of figuring out how do you perform for this camera. Yeah. And basically you're looking at the little red dot, you know, look at the little red dot, and now you know you're looking at everybody's living room. But it's very hard to sing to a little red dot. And that's where I found it was interesting when you have somebody like Martin McCarthy, who's incredibly experienced and has been in front of TV cameras and, you know, the whole 9 yards. He had no problem at all singing to the little red dot. And then there would be others who would come in who would just, you know, they weren't singing to the little red dot, and so that sometimes they'd be all over the place with looking at Rob, for example, and, you know, so a little disconcerting for the audience to sort of go, wait a minute, who's he looking at? You know, what's going on here? So it was a really good learning experience, I think, for a lot of us, and a lot of musicians who came back then and did it again and were much better at it after having seen themselves. You know, they'll watch it themselves and go, oh, right. I didn't mean to do that, or oh, I'll never do that again on stage, or you know, just. Oh,
there is that. I mean, once you see yourself on camera, it's like, oh gosh, do I really do that?
Yeah, and it's like with a CD. When we do a live performance, we do it and then it's done. So if we, you know, have a hiccup, if we forget the words, if we stumble, it's not a big deal because it's over in a flash. The audience is still with you. You can laugh it off. You can do whatever. But suddenly on the video, that stumble is ad infinitum. You know, it's going to go on forever. Every time you watch that video, that same stumble's going to be there, or the same corny joke, or the same flat note, or you know, it's. And
I enjoy that because that shows that you're a human being.
Well, it does, and it's great if you're, as a concert producer, which I did a lot in the States, people would send me a CD, and I'd say, I don't want your CD, sorry, you know, I want a live performance. I need to hear somebody talk to me about your live performance, because that's what my audience is going to be.
Yeah, that's what you're going to give them.
That's what you're going to give them.
Switch a CD player on.
You know, your CD is beautiful, but do you travel with the French horn and the cello and the, you know, it sounds to me like you're just coming you and your guitar. So it's not going to sound like the CD, and I need to know what you're going to sound like on stage.
There's a hard line. I mean, I've made something like I think it's 5 or 6 live CDs, and people say, well, can you do that when you come to our club? And I'm like, it's a live performance. You know, that is me. That's what I do. Well, I don't know if you can do all of those or you've edited it, you know, and you kind of go, but it's, you know, it's an hour and 17 minutes or however long a CD is. Yeah. You know, I managed to do that many on the night time. That's what it is, you know. This is what I sound like. But it is hard, and it was hard, and I'm pleased that you see it from a positive point of view, where it was a learning experience for quite a lot of people. It was a learning experience,
and it was also incredibly gratifying to get all the feedback from the audience. People saying, "Oh, I'm so glad that we did this, and we had a chance to enjoy music on a Saturday night." And we kept it up because even after COVID, the lockdowns and everything were done, because so many of our let's face it, many of our folky friends are, I'm not going to say they have one foot in the grave, But we've all gotten older, and an awful lot of us, like,
They're matured.
We have matured. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't drive at night.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the start of cataracts, and the driving at night, I just can't do it. And I hear that from an awful lot of people of, well, we don't go out at night anymore, so we don't go to the concerts.
Jimmy Lee Curtis, amongst many, let's have a matinee.
Yeah, well, and we do our concerts here from 1 to 4. No, they're not. What time do they start? They're 3 to 5 in the afternoons. And I might even move them back so that they're 2 to 4 in the wintertime. So that is a little shot at driving home in the light. Yeah. But again, it's that feeling that people can go for lunch, have a concert. It used to be you'd go for dinner and you'd have a concert. Now they go for lunch and have a concert. Or they'll have the concert and then they'll go for dinner.
Yeah. Perfectly logical.
Perfectly logical. It works just brilliantly.
Yeah, it does.
And it's harder, I think, to get the critical mass, the number of people that you would like to have come to a concert. And so the Zooming or the YouTubes give you that chance to have, we can have 130 people watching a concert, and that's more than you'd have gotten if you'd set it up at the Rifle Club. Yeah. So that's nice.
Well done you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Like I say, it's hugely appreciated. As I've gone around, so many people have mentioned it. So.
Well, what the weirdest thing about it is, obviously my name is associated with it, as is Rob's, and we both, usually I'm in the camera introducing the artist and stuff. So it's amazing the number of people who know me now.
Oh, yes.
And I'll think, who are you?
Yeah.
And they'll come and say hi, and Janie, da-da-da-da-da, and I think, who are you? Do I know you?
Well, I'm very pleased to hear somebody else who suffers from, was it nominal aphasia? I'm surprised I get from one place to another. I don't recognise places or people, but I can remember songs. So that, and I can't play football, so there you go.
Well, and while this sounds really tacky in a way, many, many years ago, the one part of the Eastern Shore where I used to live was a little place called St. Michael's. And St. Michael's was this mecca for very, very wealthy people. It's where Dick Cheney ended up. Dick Cheney and Ashcroft and all these, Eisenhower had an estate there. The Chrysler family had an estate there. So because of my association with the maritime industry and the magazine that I worked for, I knew the owner of one of the marinas in St. Michael's pretty well. And it turned out that he was vice president of Sun Oil. He was kind of had more money than God and had really been up there in the upper circles. And he was in the bank. He and I met at the bank one day. And there was a very shabbily dressed fellow in line in front of us. And when the guy turned around, Frank said, "Hi, how are you? And, hope you have a good day." And he just very pleasant. And the guy kind of looked at him funny and shuffled sideways, out the room. But Frank then turned to me and said, "This is the damnedest place I've ever lived." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "That guy." And I said, "Yeah, that was Willie from, he runs one of the workboats." "Oh, is that? Yeah, well, you never know. I mean, for all I know, he was Eisenhower's grandson." He just, everybody comes here, we're all incredibly wealthy and we're all relaxed and we run around in our skivvies and our junk clothes. And he said, "So I find I have to be nice to everyone."
Which is always a problem.
It's like, oh, Frank.
Even if you don't know them. Do what I do. "Hi. Good to see you."
And so I've always kept that. Just to remember, when people know you, you might not know them, but they know you and they're obviously happy to see you and you have touched them in some positive way. And so I'm grateful for that.
We can only hope. Thank you for that. That was lovely. Oh, as he kicked the camera. That was good.